Hello, we're going to film a short video today just to look at the basic start position for Pilates. So we want to look at finding the start position, pelvic tilts and engaging your core and finding what we call neutral. This is the start position that we'll tend to use for a lot of our Pilates exercises, so you might find it useful for the next video that we film. So Rachel's laying on the floor. As you can see, she's got her hips and knees bent, and we're just going to start looking at pelvic tilts to start with. So in this position, we're going to flatten our back into the mat, and then we're going to arch it as much as we can. So we'll just zoom in so we can see what Rachel's doing. So she's just flattening her back into the ground and then arching it. It's only a small movement. And for some of you, you might find your back's a little bit stiff, so it might be a little bit uncomfortable in one direction or the other. So if it's more comfortable going to flatter, but not as comfortable going arched, you can just work more into flattening your back and less into arching it, and vice versa. Lovely. Sometimes takes a bit of getting used to. And we're just using this at the beginning just to loosen everything up. Then we're going to think about finding our neutral. So our neutral position is somewhere halfway between as much as you can flatten your back and as much as you can arch your back. Don't worry about it too much about it being exactly halfway. So we're just looking at finding a position. It's going to be a position you need to hold. So it wants to be a comfortable position. Once we've found this neutral position, if you find the bony part on your hips, so that's the bit at the front of your hips, if you move your fingers in an inch and down about an inch, okay, and that's looking at one of our deep muscles, transversus abdominis, underneath where your fingers are. So there's a few different ways to engage this. If you imagine you're pulling your belly button in towards the floor, Rachel, and then what you're going to find is that muscle's just going to gently press up into your fingers. That's it. And then relax, and then try it again. And then what I want you to try and think about is, can you keep that muscle tight against your fingers whilst you're breathing normally? So it's really normal for this to flick on and off, this muscle, when you're not used to tightening it. We're teaching you in a lying position, but once you've got the hang of engaging this muscle, it's useful to practice it sitting, standing throughout your day. Practice it when you're talking, because then you can really dissociate your breathing. It's only a really small contraction, so if you think about 100% effort when you try and tighten a muscle as hard as you can, we're only looking at putting about 30% effort into this. If you feel like you still don't know what you're doing, just relax completely. And then what we're going to think about is we're going to think instead about trying to tighten that muscle by pulling up through the pelvic floor. So to do this, you want to imagine you're just sucking everything up and in from underneath. And you can tighten the same muscle, but just from the opposite end. Once you find that you can tighten this muscle, what you're going to do is you're going to try and hold it tight for a count of 10 whilst breathing normally. Relax off and repeat this 10 times. If you're still struggling and you think, I'm not really sure what I'm trying to do, what you can do is try learning it in a different position. So if I get you to turn into 4-point kneeling, Rachel. So in this position, if you place one of your hands just on your very low part of your tummy, you won't really be able to see what Rachel's doing here, but if you now keep your hand in exactly the same place, but just imagine you're lifting your tummy off your hand just by a few millimetres. Excellent, perfect. And then relax again, so let the weight of your tummy go into your hand. And then keeping your hand still, just lift that tummy off, just the low stomach off your hand by a few millimetres. Lovely. So as you lift your low tummy up, that just engages those muscles. And like I said, it's only a really small movement. We'll just have a look at pelvic tilts in sitting. If you want to come to sitting, Rachel. Okay, so you're going to sit away from the back of the chair like Rachel is. We're just going to zoom in on her back. And we're just going to have a look at pelvic tilts here. So what you're going to do is you're just going to tip your pelvis back. That's it. So just sinking down into the chair and then coming up nice and tall. So just arching your back. Perfect. And then sinking down. Lovely. And arching your back. We'll just do 2 more of those. Lovely, and then we're going to look for neutral, so that's going to be somewhere between, halfway between as much as you can sink down and as much as you can arch up. And again, it wants to be a comfortable position, so once you're in this position, you could practice engaging your core as before. We're going to follow this video with a video on basic Pilates, some of the basic Pilates exercises that you might be familiar with that we use here. Thanks.